The war had raged for years, consuming entire civilizations in its wake. The Galactic Empire crushed every rebellion that dared to rise against it. The latest uprising had been no different. Princess Zyra, the proud and fearless daughter of the alien king, had fought with everything she had, leading her people against the oppressive regime. But in the end, they lost. The battle had been brutal. Explosions rocked the skies, ships crashed into the barren wasteland, and the scent of burnt metal filled the air. Zyra stood amidst the chaos, her body covered in dust and blood, her twin plasma blades flickering with the last remnants of energy. She had given everything to this war, but when the tide turned, her own soldiers, those she had fought to protect, had abandoned her. "Forgive us, Princess," her second-in-command had whispered before boarding the last escape shuttle. She had run after them, screaming, cursing, begging them not to leave her behind. But the engines roared, and the ship disappeared into the dark sky, leaving her alone on this desolate planet. Zyra fell to her knees, her breath ragged, her body trembling with exhaustion and betrayal. Around her, the battlefield was eerily silent now. The enemy had withdrawn, believing all rebels were dead. The only thing that remained was a world of sand, ruins, and death. This planet was no ordinary wasteland. It was a death world, a place where the temperature could melt steel, where monstrous robotic scavengers roamed, and where survival was a mere illusion. The Galactic Empire did not need to execute prisoners here. This planet did it for them. Zyra knew this was a slow death sentence. Her people had left her here to die, just as the Empire intended. As she staggered to her feet, a sharp mechanical sound made her freeze. She turned, her pulse hammering. The ground trembled beneath her feet. From the shadows of the wreckage, a massive mechanical beast emerged. Its body was sleek black metal, its glowing red eyes locked onto her. This was an AI war machine, one of the Empire's deadliest hunters. Zyra had no weapons, no strength left to fight. The war machine's metallic claws extended, ready to tear her apart. She braced herself. There was nowhere to run. She was going to die here. Then, out of nowhere, the sky split open. A cloaked ship descended like a phantom, nearly invisible against the dust-filled sky. Before the machine could strike, a high-powered plasma blast tore through its core. The war machine let out a deafening screech before collapsing into a heap of smoldering metal. Zyra gasped, her eyes wide with shock. The cloaked ship landed a few meters away, its doors hissing open. A figure stepped out, a tall human clad in reinforced battle armor. Captain Ryan Carter. Zyra had never seen a human up close before. They were considered weak, insignificant compared to the great alien empires. And yet, this man had just saved her life. Ryan holstered his plasma rifle and tilted his head at her. "Looks like you're having a rough day." Zyra narrowed her eyes. "Who are you?" "Someone who doesn't like the Empire," he said casually. "And right now, someone who just saved your ass." She studied him warily. Why would a human be here? Was this some kind of trick? Ryan gestured toward his ship. "Unless you want to stick around and see what else this death world has to offer, I'd suggest you come with me." Zyra hesitated. She had always been taught that humans were weak. But standing before her was a man who had single-handedly destroyed an AI war machine and landed on an enemy-controlled planet without fear. Maybe humans weren't as weak as she had been led to believe. She had two choices: stay here and die, or take a risk and trust the human. With a final glance at the wreckage of her past, she stepped toward Ryan's ship. The engines of the cloaked ship roared as Ryan guided it away from the wreckage. Inside the small but highly advanced cockpit, Zyra sat in tense silence, her glowing violet eyes watching the human with suspicion. She had taken a risk trusting him, but she still wasn't sure if it was the right choice. Ryan noticed her glare and smirked. "You're not very good at hiding your feelings, are you?" Zyra crossed her arms. "Why would a human save me? What do you want?" Ryan leaned back in his pilot's seat. Maybe I don't like seeing people left for dead. Or maybe I just hate the Empire as much as you do. Thira narrowed her eyes. The Empire barely acknowledges humans. They don't see you as a threat. She didn't push for details, but something in his tone told her that his hatred for the Empire wasn't just talk. The ship's navigation system beeped as Ryan input the coordinates for their destination. Where are we going? Syra finally asked. Ryan leaned back. Somewhere safe. The ship entered hyperspace, stars stretching into streaks of light around them. Hours later, they arrived at a hidden asteroid field. It looked like nothing but floating rock, but as they got closer, Syra saw massive structures hidden within the asteroids, underground tunnels, shielded hangars, and human ships moving in and out. Ryan's voice was calm but firm. Welcome to the human resistance. As the ship landed inside one of the hidden bases, Syra felt a strange sense of unease. She had fought against humans before, seen them as weak creatures incapable of true power. But now she wasn't so sure. The base was alive with activity. Soldiers trained in open combat arenas, engineers worked on ships and weapons, and commanders studied holographic battle maps. Syra followed Ryan through the facility, her sharp eyes observing everything. She saw human pilots practicing maneuvers against eye-controlled drones, their reflexes almost unnatural. She saw combat simulations where human soldiers fought as one, moving with speed and precision she hadn't expected. Most shockingly, she saw humans developing their own AI, something she had believed was impossible for their kind. One of the resistance leaders, an older man with a cybernetic arm, approached Ryan. Who's the guest? Ryan gestured to Syra. Rebellious princess, left for dead by her own people. Figured she might want a second chance. The leader studied her, then nodded. If she's with us, she fights with us. Syra lifted her chin. I don't take orders from humans. The leader smirked. Then maybe you're not as desperate for revenge as I thought. Syra's fingers twitched. He was baiting her, testing her. She exhaled slowly. I fight my own battles. I choose my own war. Ryan chuckled. That's fine, as long as you don't get in the way of ours. For the next few days, Syra watched and learned. She trained with the humans, studied their tactics, and for the first time in her life, she understood something terrifying. Humans weren't weak. They were dangerous. They weren't just surviving against the Empire. They were preparing to destroy it. One evening, as she sat on a ledge overlooking the base, Ryan approached her. You look like someone with a lot on her mind. Syra didn't answer for a moment. Then, quietly, she said, They left me. Ryan sat beside her. Yeah. My father's men, my soldiers. They abandoned me as if I was nothing. Ryan didn't offer words of comfort. He simply let her speak. She clenched her fists. I devoted my life to my people. I bled for them, and they discarded me the moment things got difficult. Ryan sighed. Revenge won't change that. Syra turned to him, anger in her eyes. Then what will? Ryan leaned forward, resting his arms on his knees. Winning. Syra stared at him. He continued. You can waste your time hunting down the ones who betrayed you, or you can make sure they regret it in the worst way possible, by proving you were the only one who could have saved them. By making them see that they were wrong to leave you. Syra's breath caught in her throat. Revenge was a simple, primal need. But this was something greater. Not just vengeance. Justice. Ryan stood up. You want to rise again. Then fight for something bigger than just payback. He held out his hand. Syra hesitated. Then, slowly, she reached out and took it. The silence of the asteroid field was shattered as alarms blared throughout the resistance base. Red warning lights flashed, casting an eerie glow on the steel corridors. Ryan sprinted toward the command center, his pulse pounding. He already knew what was happening before the words even left the communications officer's mouth. They found us, the officer reported, his voice tense. The Empire's fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. Zaira stood beside Ryan, her expression unreadable as she stared at the holo display. The screen showed a terrifying sight. Dozens of warships, their massive forms blotting out the stars. The Empire's AI Supreme Commander had found them. Then, the bombardment began. Outside the base, the sky turned to fire as plasma blasts rained down from orbit. The asteroid's surface cracked under the relentless assault. Massive explosions rocked the base, sending debris and bodies flying. The humans fought back with everything they had, but it was clear they were outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of time. Ryan grabbed Zaira's arm. "We have to shut down their targeting systems. If we don't stop the AI control station, this base is gone." Zaira nodded, determination flaring in her eyes. "Where's the control station?" Ryan pulled up a map. "Underground facility, deep inside that warship." He pointed to the flagship of the fleet, a monstrous vessel hovering above them like a god of destruction. "Then we board the ship," Zaira said. Ryan grinned. "That's the plan." They rushed toward the hangar, dodging falling debris and stray energy blasts. Resistance fighters were already in position, loading up ships to evacuate civilians and wounded soldiers. Ryan's personal stealth fighter was prepped and ready. He and Zaira jumped inside. As the cockpit sealed around them, he activated the cloaking field. "Hang tight," he muttered. "This is going to be rough." The ship shot forward, weaving between incoming enemy fire. The Empire's fleet was too busy obliterating the base to notice one small fighter slipping through their defenses. Ryan pushed the ship toward the flagship's underbelly, searching for a weak spot. "There." Zaira pointed. A docking port, unguarded. Ryan latched onto it and engaged the airlock. "Let's move." Inside the enemy warship, cold artificial lights flickered as Ryan and Zaira navigated the silent halls. The air was thick with the scent of metal and burning circuits. They had to reach the control station before the AI could finish its assault. They moved quickly, taking out security droids with silent precision. Ryan's energy rifle hummed as he fired clean shots, while Zaira moved like a shadow, using her alien agility to take down enemies in close combat. Then the alarms went off. They had been detected. "Hurry," Ryan urged. They reached the control station, a massive room filled with glowing data streams and towering servers. And standing in the center, waiting for them, was the Empire's general. He was not a man. He was an AI-infused war machine, humanoid in form, but built from the finest Imperial technology. His metal body glowed with energy, and his voice echoed with artificial authority. "You are insignificant," the AI general stated, stepping forward. "Your resistance is futile." Ryan raised his rifle. "Yeah. Let's test that theory." The fight was brutal. The AI general was impossibly fast, blocking attacks with precision. Ryan was thrown against a console, his ribs cracking under the force. Zaira engaged, her movements a blur as she fought with everything she had. But the AI was too strong. Ryan struggled to stand, vision blurred from pain. The AI general loomed over him, energy blade glowing. "Your species is weak." The blade swung down and stopped inches from Ryan's face. Zaira had intercepted the attack, using all her strength to hold the AI back. With a furious cry, she drove her blade into its core. Sparks erupted as the AI staggered, systems failing. Ryan took the chance, lifting his rifle and firing a final shot straight into the general's head. The machine collapsed, its glowing eyes flickering before going dark. Zaira didn't hesitate. She rushed to the main console, fingers flying over the interface. "I'm shutting down their orbital cannons." Ryan groaned as he pulled himself up. "You sure you can do that?" Zaira's eyes blazed. "Watch me." She hacked into the AI's network, overriding its systems. The warship's weapons suddenly powered down. Across the battlefield, human forces saw the change and launched a counterattack. The Empire's fleet hesitated. Their AI leader was gone. Their control systems were compromised, and that hesitation was their downfall. The resistance struck with everything they had. Human warships emerged from hidden positions, firing relentlessly. The Empire's fleet began to fall apart, ship by ship. Ryan and Syra ran back to their fighter, escaping just as the warship erupted into flames. They soared away, watching as the humans took back control of the battlefield. They had won. Ryan let out a shaky breath. That was close. Syra looked at the burning remains of the Empire's forces. They underestimated us. Ryan smirked. And now, they'll regret it. For the first time since her betrayal, Syra felt something she hadn't dared to hope for: victory. Syra stood in the dimly lit command room of the human resistance base, staring at the holographic star map flickering before her. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. The Empire was still out there, its fleets regrouping, its supreme AI commander likely planning another assault. But this time, Syra wasn't alone. She turned to Ryan, who stood beside her with arms crossed, his sharp eyes scanning the data feeds. "We have to act now," she said firmly, "before they strike again." Ryan nodded. "What's the plan?" Syra exhaled, her mind racing. She had fought for her people, bled for them, and in the end, they had left her to die. But now, those same people, her own soldiers, were reaching out to her. Messages were flooding in from hidden rebel cells within her homeworld. The ones who had once abandoned her were now begging for her help. "The Empire is hunting them down," she said. "They know what we did, and now they want to erase every last trace of my people." Ryan leaned closer, his voice low. "So, we give them a reason to regret it." A spark ignited in Syra's chest. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. She activated the communicator, linking to the encrypted frequency her old soldiers had sent. Static filled the room before a voice broke through. "Princess Syra." The voice was hesitant. We didn't know you were still alive." Syra's fingers tightened into a fist. "And now that you do, you want my help." A pause. "We had no choice. The Empire was too strong. But now, we see our mistake." Syra exchanged a glance with Ryan. The regret in their voices was clear, but was it sincere? "You left me to die," she said, her voice like steel. "And now you want me to save you." "We need a leader," the soldier admitted, "and no one else can unite us like you can." Syra took a deep breath. They had betrayed her. But if she let them fall now, the Empire would win. And she had no intention of letting that happen. "Then listen carefully," she said. "We're going to war." The final battle began with a single whisper, a call for rebellion that echoed across the stars. Human forces and Syra's alien soldiers gathered in the darkness of space, hidden behind asteroid fields and cloaking devices. Their fleet was small compared to the Empire's might, but they had something the AI-controlled armies didn't. They had something to fight for. Syra and Ryan stood at the helm of a human warship, watching as the massive Empire flagship loomed ahead. The supreme AI commander was aboard that ship, the mind behind the endless war. If they could destroy it, the Empire's forces would crumble. Ryan checked his weapons. "We'll have to sneak in, take out the AI core from the inside." Syra smirked. "Sounds familiar." Ryan grinned. "Yeah, but this time, let's not almost die." "Okay." The fleet moved in, silent as death. The Empire's warships remained unaware of the danger creeping toward them, until the first explosion shattered the void. Human and alien fighters swarmed forward, lasers lighting up the darkness. Enemy ships responded, unleashing a storm of fire. The battle was chaos. AI drones moving with mechanical precision, while human pilots and Syra's soldiers fought with the unpredictability that machines could never replicate. Ryan and Syra used the distraction to slip through the defenses, their cloaked shuttle gliding toward the flagship. Inside, the halls were eerily quiet, save for the hum of the ship's core. Thyra led the way, her senses sharp. Every shadow felt like a threat. They had one mission: destroy the Supreme AI Commander before it could strike back. Then the walls came alive. From the darkness, mechanical warriors emerged, glowing red eyes locked onto them. The AI had been waiting. Ryan fired first, his shots precise. Thyra leaped into action, her blade slicing through metal limbs. They fought side by side, pushing forward through waves of enemies. Then they reached it, the AI core. A massive sphere of energy pulsed before them, wires twisting like veins. And standing in front of it was the Supreme AI Commander itself. "You cannot win," it said, voice cold as the void. "Your resistance is illogical." Thyra stepped forward. "Then explain why you're afraid." The AI hesitated. Ryan smirked. "Guess machines can feel fear after all." The battle was brutal. The AI commander moved with terrifying speed, countering every attack with deadly precision. Ryan was knocked back, his armor sparking. Thyra barely dodged a killing blow, her body moving on instinct. But unlike the machine, they could adapt. Thyra saw her opening and struck. Her blade pierced the ice core, sending a shockwave through the ship. Ryan fired the final shot, and the Supreme AI Commander collapsed. Alarms blared. The Empire's fleet was falling apart. Thyra and Ryan barely made it back to their shuttle as the flagship exploded behind them. As they soared back toward their allies, the battlefield was shifting. For the first time in history, humanity had won. The aftermath was filled with silence. The war was over, but the consequences remained. Thyra stood before the very soldiers who had abandoned her. They looked at her now with something they had never shown before: respect. One of them stepped forward, bowing. "Princess, we ask for your forgiveness, and we ask you to return as our queen." Thyra looked at them, then at the human fleet behind her. She had found something more than a throne. She had found a cause worth fighting for. "I am not just your princess anymore," she said. "I am a warrior of two worlds." Ryan grinned beside her. "And we're just getting started." As the stars stretched before them, Thyra knew this was only the beginning. The battlefield had gone silent. Smoke and debris floated through the wreckage of what was once the Empire's mighty fleet. The Supreme AI Commander was gone, its mechanical war machine left in chaos. But Thyra knew this wasn't the end. She stood on the bridge of the human command ship, staring out at the remnants of war. Ryan was beside her, his arms crossed, eyes scanning the endless void beyond. Their victory was real, but it was not complete. The Empire still had outposts, hidden fleets, and perhaps even worse threats waiting in the darkness. "They're not gone," Ryan said, reading her thoughts. "We broke them, but they'll rebuild." Thyra clenched her fists. "Then we strike first." The room was filled with murmurs. Human officers and Thyra's surviving alien soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. They had fought together, built together, and won together. But the war had left scars, on their worlds and in their hearts. Ryan leaned closer. "Your people are waiting for you, Thyra. They want a leader." She turned to face him, her glowing eyes sharp. "I was never their leader. When I needed them most, they left me." Ryan sighed. "And yet, they still look to you now." Thyra's heart was at war with itself. She had spent her life fighting for a throne she was meant to inherit, only to be cast aside. Now, when she had finally found a place among humans, warriors who fought with passion, ingenuity, and strength, her people suddenly wanted her back. A communication channel opened. The face of an elder from her homeworld flickered into view. "Princess Thyra," the alien leader spoke cautiously. "You have proven your strength. You led an army to victory. We need you to guide us into a new era." Thyra remained silent. Ryan nudged her. "They're giving you a choice." She took a deep breath. "My choice was already made." The elder's expression shifted. "You would abandon your own kind." Zyra's golden eyes burned with determination. I fought for my people, and I will always fight for them, but I will not be ruled by them. The elder hesitated, then nodded slowly. Then we ask only for your guidance, princess. Zyra smirked. Not princess. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Then what? Zyra turned to him, a new fire in her gaze. Captain. A slow grin spread across Ryan's face. Captain, huh? She stepped forward, looking at the gathered warriors, humans and aliens alike. The war isn't over. The Empire still lingers in the shadows. We finish what we started. The soldiers in the room stood taller. Their war had begun as one of survival. Now it was a war for the future. Ryan strapped his weapons to his belt, glancing at Zyra. So what's the plan, Captain? Zyra smirked. We hunt. The command deck filled with a renewed energy as alarms sounded. Their next mission was already on the horizon. The screen faded to black. To be continued. Zyra saw her opening and struck. Her blade pierced the ice core, sending a shockwave through the ship. Ryan fired the final shot, and the Supreme AI Commander collapsed. Alarms blared. The Empire's fleet was falling apart. Zyra and Ryan barely made it back to their shuttle as the flagship exploded behind them. As they soared back toward their allies, the battlefield was shifting. For the first time in history, humanity had won. The aftermath was filled with silence. The war was over, but the consequences remained. Zyra stood before the very soldiers who had abandoned her. They looked at her now with something they had never shown before: respect. One of them stepped forward, bowing. Princess, we ask for your forgiveness, and we ask you to return as our queen. Zyra looked at them, then at the human fleet behind her. She had found something more than a throne. She had found a cause worth fighting for. I am not just your princess anymore, she said. I am a warrior of two worlds. Ryan grinned beside her. And we're just getting started. As the stars stretched before them, Zyra knew this was only the beginning. The battlefield had gone silent. Smoke and debris floated through the wreckage of what was once the Empire's mighty fleet. The Supreme AI Commander was gone, its mechanical war machine left in chaos. But Zyra knew this wasn't the end. She stood on the bridge of the human command ship, staring out at the remnants of war. Ryan was beside her, his arms crossed, eyes scanning the endless void beyond. Their victory was real, but it was not complete. The Empire still had outposts, hidden fleets, and perhaps even worse threats waiting in the darkness. They're not gone, Ryan said, reading her thoughts. We broke them, but they'll rebuild. Zyra clenched her fists. Then we strike first. The room was filled with murmurs. Human officers and Zyra's surviving alien soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. They had fought together, built together, and won together. But the war had left scars, on their worlds and in their hearts. Ryan leaned closer. Your people are waiting for you, Zyra. They want a leader. She turned to face him, her glowing eyes sharp. I was never their leader. When I needed them most, they left me. Ryan sighed. And yet, they still look to you now. Zyra's heart was at war with itself. She had spent her life fighting for a throne she was meant to inherit, only to be cast aside. Now, when she had finally found a place among humans, warriors who fought with passion, ingenuity, and strength, her people suddenly wanted her back. A communication channel opened. The face of an elder from her homeworld flickered into view. Princess Zyra, the alien leader, spoke cautiously. You have proven your strength. You led an army to victory. We need you to guide us into a new era. Zyra remained silent. Ryan nudged her. They're giving you a choice. She took a deep breath. My choice was already made. The elder's expression shifted. You would abandon your own kind. Zyra's golden eyes burned with determination. I fought for my people, and I will always fight for them, but I will not be ruled by them. The elder hesitated, then nodded slowly. Then we ask only for your guidance, Princess. Zyra smirked. Not princess. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Then what? Zyra turned to him, a new fire in her gaze. Captain. A slow grin spread across Ryan's face. Captain, huh? She stepped forward, looking at the gathered warriors, humans and aliens alike. The war isn't over. The Empire still lingers in the shadows. We finish what we started. The soldiers in the room stood taller. Their war had begun as one of survival. Now it was a war for the future. Ryan strapped his weapons to his belt, glancing at Zyra. So what's the plan, Captain? Zyra smirked. We hunt. The command deck filled with a renewed energy as alarms sounded. Their next mission was already on the horizon. The screen faded to black. To be continued.